Okay, welcome everybody. This is Bitrix24 Live, your opportunity to ask questions and get answers from our Bitrix24 experts. I am Damien Edwards, the Commercial Manager of Interface. We are Bitrix24 Gold Partners. And with me today, I have our Bitrix expert, Andy Naylor.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. So I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Interface. And today we'll be answering your questions on Bitrix24. So if you do have any questions, please do put them in the box either on LinkedIn or Zoom, and we can answer them as we go through the session.
Yeah, so let's go straight to our first question, which is, inside a deal, we have 3 contacts. Is it possible using CRM automation to send an automated email to all 3 contacts?
Okay, so if we just jump into Bitrix here and let's take a look. So normally when you use the automation, what would happen is it would take the first contact email on the particular deal. So if we go into the automation rules, let's have a look at what we would do if it was 1. So we can click on create automation rule and let's put it in the deal completed stage. And we've got this one here, send email to customer. So if we add that automation rule, you can see the send email is here. Now, generally what would happen is this email here, you can see client address type. We can select the email, but it's here, use the address, which is going to be the first added. Now, that would send an email to 1. So if I just put thanks, and then hello, and then save that, and then just save the automation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Edit in Workflow Designer and just choose a separate tool. So we can still see the send email to customer is in here. And you can see it's exactly the same. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to interactive settings here. And we can, I think it's this one, and click in here. And the recipient, what we can do is if we remove that one within here, and then in the element fields, we should have, you can see contact, but you can also see contacts. So contacts is the one that you want to be able to select. And what doing that will allow you to send to multiple. And as you say, we have to select the sender, but just be wary about this because only the email addresses that have been connected. Only the email addresses that have been confirmed can send these emails. So it's really important that you use the contacts. That will list all of the contacts out of here, and you can still use HTML the same way that you did using the automation. So I think that option might only be available to specific plans on the cloud that have access to edit in the workflow designer. So click on save. I need to fill out all of the email details in here. I've left them blank. That's why it wouldn't let me save. So I can come out of here and then just save it. But it's simple as that to send it to multiple contacts.
Okay, yeah, there's kind of 3 different areas really with email sending, I think, inside Bitrix. You can send emails obviously manually on demand like you do from your normal email client. Choose to send an email that you type manually. You can send bulk emails for marketing purposes, create your lists and send those out. And then you can do, as we've seen there, kind of drip email campaigns, can't you? Or emails as part of a process. Send them out to one at a time to people as and when. You usually do that as and when they kind of go through different stages of a sales process. Okay, is there a way for Bitrix to ask if we want to close the app during the day? Thus, there will be no forgetting to finish the working day. So this question may be connected to the work time module. I'm not sure. So you're asking, thus there will be no forgetting to finish the working day. So when we have work time enabled, you do need to you need to remember to finish the day, don't you, at the end of the day, clock out at the end of the day in order for it to record your correct working time. I don't think there's a way for it to ask, but you can set working hours, can't you? Start times and finish times. I don't think it would prompt you to finish at the particular finish time, though, will it?
Well, you can use the work reports feature, couldn't you, I think? So if we were to set the work reports in here, and let's just say we'll set them for, click on settings, sorry, and then click on Andy Naylor in here. We can specify a daily report period, and we can specify it at a specific time of the day. So if you said set at 5 o'clock, what would happen there is, obviously that's the end of your day, you would then be prompted with a pop-up to write some text in that you have put in for the work report. That work report would then get set in to here, and then you can report, and then the person who looks at that report would be able to review it. But that would pop up at the end of your working day. And obviously to fill that report out, you would remember, right, I need to clock out now because the work report and the work time module are connected. Because again, if I go back to the time and reports and work time and just click on here, on the daily report here, I can click on required. And again, that would mean that every day at 5 p.m. that would pop up and I'm required to fill it out. Or, like I say, you can say not required, but it would still pop up and you could just cancel it off. So if it is something that you need reminding on, that's the best way to go about it, using the work reports, because you can set a specific time of the day that it would pop up and tell you.
Yeah, I think that answers the questions, and that's a good, I think that does exactly what they're looking for. Next question. Can I create a quote and then transform to invoice and use FreshBooks integration to complete the accounts process in the FreshBooks platform? So that's straightforward process, isn't it? Convert a quote to an invoice.
I mean, yeah, it's quite straightforward to do that part of it. So when you're inside a quote, let's take a look at, see if we've got any in here, quotes. So you don't really convert a quote as such. So if we had this Bitrix24 training inquiry here, we could finish it. And then in here, what we could do is generate an invoice directly from this quote. It would always keep the quote in Bitrix, because obviously then you've got a record of that specific quote. So it's not essentially converting a quote into an invoice and removing the quote, because you wouldn't want to do that. You need to see what you quoted them previously. But yeah, you can click on the arrow manually. Alternatively, if you wanted to use an automation rule, then we could click on create. And then if I just click on here, I think we've got invoice, have we? Let's have a look. Yeah, we could create a document directly. They do have an option, I think, to, they usually have it create source. Let me have a look if it's still there. Might have renamed it on here, but you could generate an invoice document, a quote document in here. It might be, again, if I was to just go into edit in workflow designer, I'm just going to try and show you the in the CRM part, we could have, let's see if it's got it still. Yeah, I can't find it on here, I don't believe. There used to be an action block that said create using source, and it would allow you to generate an invoice directly from there. With regards to the FreshBooks integration to complete the account process, I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know too much about the third-party applications. It would, if there is a FreshBooks option in here, I'm not sure if there is. Let's have a look. FreshBooks. Yeah, there is. So in here, I would definitely have a look at either one of these, and just, it's worth testing. We don't have FreshBooks here, so I can't really guide you on that front, but just have a look at either one of those and test it out on your side.
Okay, next question. Are there 3 types of approval for requests possible. For example, I ask for vacation, it is sent to my team leader, and only after he approves it, it's sent to the HR for approval, and then sent to the person responsible for HR to process the day's leave. So the standard HR process, I believe, includes 2 stages, I believe. So I think we could probably show that, and it's probably can't build the whole thing for you, but we can show you how it works.
So if I go into the workflow and leave approval in here, and then go into configure workflows. We might have modified this. I'll just jump in and check. But you can see in here, in this particular workflow designer, what happens is the first leave comes in, and we have a block up here that selects the supervisor for the approval. So we click into here. We haven't got that supervisor in this particular one, but we could click on additional results and click on supervisor. So that selects the value from the block above. So that would be approval 1. And then we don't have any further approvals on this. However, what you could then do is click on here, and then I think it's on tasks. You could have an approve element. So it's been approved by the supervisor. You could then, again, you'll probably move that down. You would then have an additional approval block in here. You would put the HR, you could define the HR manager at the top in a variable or something like that, or you could essentially hard code it in. So I could put Andy Naylor in here, and then you could put the details of the leave. I would probably, because it will already exist, I would copy the dates out of here, put them in here, and then copy the title out here. So it's quite straightforward. So that's what the HR person will receive. And then based on that, you could then set it to status to approved. And then you could, after he approves it, it's sent to HR to approve, and only then sent to the person responsible for HR to process the dates. So then, yeah, you could, once that's been approved, you could then add either another block on the approved side to do whatever it is that you want them to do. You could create a task for the HR. So in here, what you could do is create a task. One of the good things here, if you create a task, what you could do is you could pause the process. So pause the process while the task is running. You could set that task for the HR person, and only when they've carried out that task, they press on finish, would it then carry on, set the status to approve, and then notify the employee. Definitely recommend going into the existing workflow. Bitrix does come with a pre-built workflow in here. So if you do go to automation, workflows in the feed,
yeah,
you can see in here. And if you don't see any requests in here, any workflows, you can click on workflows directory, and you can install the ones that you want to install.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be a bit complicated, but if you want to get in touch with us, under a support contract with us, we can help you set that up. And so if you want to get in touch with us, we can give you a cost to have a support package. And with that, you get a dedicated point of contact who will learn about your business and be able to support you to set up not just that, but all other areas of the system. You can manage almost every aspect of your business inside Bitrix24. So get the most out of it by getting the right sort of support, for it. Okay, next question. How can I book reservations for my hotel and my transport department within Bitrix24? So there is a tool in the CRM called Book a Resource, and that would work perfectly, I think, for that, wouldn't it? So you can create kind of calendar with those resources on it. So calendar for each room, I think, and then that calendar can be published on your website, and people can see the availability, can't they? So I don't know if we've got that enabled. We might not.
I don't think we've got it set up, but I can briefly just show you the area for book a resource of generally how it would work. Is that if I go into a deal, I guess if somebody is booking or wanting to reserve if I just go into a deal, I guess you would have a bookings pipeline to start off with. That would probably be the best starting point. And then if I just go into a deal in here, and I'll just create a field just to show you. So what Bitrix has is this book a resource in here, and we could say hotel booking, let's just call it, and then resources and users. I guess you would do resources. I'm trying to think how you would do this. So I guess it'd be 1 day, 1 night, 2 nights. You could say 2 days, and so on and so forth. I don't know. Club room. Then you would set it up very similar to that. Allow overbooking. Add services and duration. So you could see in here, start date, you would say 2 nights, and then in here. So basically what it does is it creates like a calendar for each room, and you would be able to, somebody would be able to book. I mean, you can really, it's probably not the place to do this on this session, but you can really create a start date, an end date, and then that can be booked. It can come and check against the calendar. The person would see that it's available. I guess depending on how big your hotel is, I thought this may be really useful for maybe boutique hotels with 6, 7, 8 rooms. You could have a booking resource per room like this, and then you'd be able to book it out. And the person who's using the web form, because generally what happens here is you would then create let's have a quick check, add-on, and then a CRM form. And then you could have that booking, call it a booking form. And then in here, what you would generally do is you would add that field. So if I just did that quickly. And let's have a look. The CRM in fields. Add field, and then in here in our deal, we would be able to find that field that we've just added. We'd be able to add it to the form, and then so on and so forth. We do have a lot of fields in here. So see if I can find it. I can't remember what I called the hotel. There we go. Hotel booking. Click on add. And then in here, you can see, we would obviously rename the select resource. You could say select room, number of nights, and then it would pull from that specific calendar on here. So we'd be able to see it booked out or not. And then obviously you can tailor this to take fields from the contact, and you can add additional fields in the deal. But that's a very quick and rough setup of how you would do it. If you do need assistance with it, like Damien mentioned, get in touch with us and we can more than happy to assist.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect solution really for booking hotel rooms, and you just need to get it. If you get it right, if you implement it right, it will save you a considerable amount of time, allow you to guests to be able to book very easily on the website. But you can also book, so you can publish this form on your public facing website for people to interact with and check availability. And you can also check the availability manually, so your staff can do that whilst they're on the phone, can't they, and book. So one system, and you can access it in different ways. So very good solution, I think, for that. Next question: when leaving the absence graph is edited, how can the absence in the calendar also be edited automatically? So it sounds like when leaves change in the absence graph, it doesn't change it in the calendar. I don't know about that. I don't know about that particular.
Yeah,
sounds like it should do. Or I don't know if it's a setting or a bug.
No, it's not. So I mean, so by default on the leave requests, there isn't a what happens is once it's approved, it gets added to the absence chart here. Now, I don't know if we've got any in here that we've got, but we don't. But once a leave request is, let's say, for example, cancelled or removed off here, then this is a separate module in comparison to the calendar. So unless you had an on-premise, then you would not be able to delete it off here, and it would delete the same one off the calendar. It's just not that I'm aware of. It's possible because they're two separate entities. On the on-premise, what we have is a module for absence management, and what that does is when somebody requests it, then I'll just jump to our on-premise solution in here, and I'll just see if I've got any leave booked in here. So I haven't got any. Yeah, I haven't got any. Oh yeah, I have. So I can cancel it. So there are in here, and we think we disabled it at the minute, but there is in here my approved leave, my pending leave. And what happens is when I cancel either pending or approved, it takes it off the absence chart, and it also takes it off the calendar. But you can only do that with a sort of an event handler that would be able to know and link the two together. You can't do that on cloud, unfortunately. So yeah, this leave, you can see on ours, we have got quite a lot of remaining leave entitlement, but on our module that you have, when you book, gets approved, it takes it off your entitlement, and there's a whole management console in the front end. Yeah, so it's quite straightforward if you have the on-premise.
If you have the on-premise. So yeah, so you can get a lot more out of the on-premise edition. And when we say on-premise, you don't have to host it yourself. We'll host it for you on a cloud server. So you access it exactly the same way over the internet inside your browser. We host it on the Google Cloud site, and it looks the same from the front end. It's just got some more features on the back end, a lot more you can do. And we have a question about on-premise. How can I add a new user in the on-premise edition? So there's a couple of ways of doing this, aren't there? I think, and is there a wrong way of doing it?
There's quite a good way of doing it as well. If you don't want, for example, if you wanted to get everybody in your system before, actually notifying them, the on-premise, you can do that. It's quite a common question that I get in training, is that I want to get all my users and employees in the system, but I don't want them to start using it yet. I want to be able to set a date in the future for them to be able to all come in at once. Everything's nicely set up. And so on and so forth. And you can do that.
That's quite a good feature of the on-premise in itself, isn't it? That with the cloud, you invite people in, they create an account, and they kind of manage their account. Then you can dismiss them from your system, but they have to create their own account. But with the on-premise, you can import from import whole bulk of users, can't you? And set them all up, and then go live with all those users rather than inviting them in one at a time. It's much more flexible, I think.
Yeah, but as you say, so there's two ways to add a new user to the on-premise. There's the normal way, like you do on the cloud, so it's slightly in a different place. But if I went to employees here, employees and employees, click on invite employees, then you have the ability to invite them, just the normal way that you would do. They'd receive an email, accept the invite, and then they can set up their own password. Generally, what we try and recommend if you're doing this is to invite them into a department. So once they accept that invite, then they nicely drop into the department that you set them in. So that's the normal way. That's the standard way that's available on the cloud as well. On the on-premise, you can either go to the control panel in the top left-hand corner. So this is where the on-premise differs to the cloud. If you don't see this bar, sometimes if you're not an administrator, if you are an administrator, but you can remove this and hide it, you can just go to your profile here. You'll see this control panel option. You can click on view. And then what you can do is you can click on settings, manage users, user list, and then you'll see a list of all of your users in here. Now, this is where it's slightly different to the cloud. You don't have this interface on the cloud. But we can click on add user. What we can do is pre-populate everything that you need to in here. So it's quite good. The important aspect of this is to be able to, I think if we go into custom fields on ours, you have to add them to a department. That's number one rule. If you don't add them to a department, they generally can't get access to the system. The second rule is that you need to add them to the employees user group. That's the second key element to creating a user in this control panel section. So department and the user group, you can make them an admin if you'd want. So demo employees is our main one. You can make them an admin by clicking on admin here. And there are a whole range of different permissions that you have extra in the on-premise as well. Once you're happy with everything, click on save, good to go. Well, in the user tab, sorry, you would set that person's password. So you would then email that particular user when you're ready to, and then they can log in using the credentials that you set them in here. And that's how they don't get notified beforehand. And you can do a bulk import of users. You can connect Active Directory up on here as well. So that, again, the on-premise does offer quite a few more features for getting users into the system.
Thank you. Next question. Is it possible to filter on contacts using conditions? For example, filter on contacts that are tagged with product X, but not product Y?
No.
so you can filter on.
Yeah, so you can't do the filter on the
not,
negative part. So you could filter on, if I go into the CRM in here, and then you go into contacts, just as an example, I could use this filter in here and filter out multiple criteria. So I could say that contact, I want to find out all the clients, and I want to find out all the clients that Max is responsible for. I can click on search. That would then filter out that particular list. However, Bitrix doesn't have at the minute the ability to say that's not in leads. So then it would show me all of the other options, or has not purchased product A, product B again. So things like that you can't do at the moment inside Bitrix. So yeah, not the not point.
Okay, thank you. Can you create task so next question, can you create templates for tasks and projects? We don't need to recreate every time we have a new customer. Sorry. Let me start again. Can you create templates for tasks and projects so we don't need to recreate every time we have a new customer project?
So yeah, certainly you can. So I mean, for task templates, it's quite straightforward if you're doing them outside of a project. So you could click into tasks, you can click into templates in here, and you can just create a template pretty much like you normally would do creating a task. And then that task then becomes available. If I click into tasks here, it becomes available. If I click on the down arrow, new task using template, and I can spin up that task repeatedly on an ad hoc basis whenever I want. With regards to projects, I mean, all we would recommend doing is creating a project, a skeleton templated project work group. So you just click on create and go through the whole steps that you would do to create the project. Also, create all the tasks inside that particular project work group. So you can create a project template. So it's very similar to what we do when we onboard new customers. We have a set, depending on the type of customer, we have a set project work group with predefined tasks inside it. And then all we can do is if we go into a project, as long as I'm the owner, which I am. So if I click into here about the work group, click into actions, and then you can click on copy. And then in here, what we can do is I can copy this, give it a new project name. I can assign different people to the project. But the main important part is that if I want to bring in all the tasks that I've created in that project work group template, I can click on tasks and it'll bring through everything. You probably don't want to bring in comments because comments are probably irrelevant to the new project that you're creating. But you can see in here, It's fantastic if you do spend the time and hours spending creating one project template. Because like I say, you can include all of all the documents that you need in a particular project. You can bring that through each time too. So that's how you do it.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can I import the timeline and historic records of a deal from one Bitrix24 platform to a new Bitrix24 platform? Now, Wilma's asked this question, and I think from a previous question that he's got a on-premise edition. So we would need to know, I think, are you going from a cloud to an on-premise? If you're going from an on-premise to an on-premise, then it's not possible to export activity, all the history and activity, all the notes and comments. But if you're going from an on-premise to an on-premise, we could do that for you through the API if you really needed to bring that information across. You can't do it from a cloud to an on-premise. You can download the main fields, or all the fields and any custom fields you've created, but not all the activity and comments. So
yeah, that's right.
But if you're going from an on-premise to an on-premise, you can get in touch with us and we can do that through the API.
Yeah, if you did have a cloud and you wanted to move everything, not just the deals, to the on-premise, then you can do that on a one-time basis, on a one-off basis. You can migrate everything that's in your cloud account to an on-premise and restore it there. But yeah, you can't separate the activity that's in deals and get that out on the cloud. Like Damien said, the on-premise, yeah, you could use the API.
Okay, next question. Is it possible to create lunchtime? Now, I think this question relates to the work times. Follow-up question. I can't find it. It forces me to choose 9 till 6:30 and lunchtime is 1 till 2:30. This interferes with our accounts meeting. So can we set a lunchtime, custom lunchtime on here? Or is it just I think it's just a start date, start in the morning and finish at the end of the day, isn't it? There's no lunch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can specify when the actual break is. You can see in when you set up a new schedule, you could set. I mean, theoretically, I guess you could set. I don't know if you could do the same day till. Let's just say it's till 12 o'clock, and then add a new working time, and then add an afternoon shift, maybe. So you could say like that, and then potentially that's the way you could do it. You can't, because you can obviously set the 1 hour break so it picks it up in here. But potentially if you did it 9 and then you can assign the people to this. I just don't know how I'd have to test it out, how that would work, because I think theoretically you might need to clock out at 12 and then clock back in rather than pausing it for that particular break. The other, I mean, if you did just leave it as this, and then let's just say, I don't have it enabled on here, but let's just say we left it at this and we left the break at 1 hour. One of the good things that you can do is, let me just enable it on our system. So it starts flashing. So that's an example of the work report that I've just switched on, by the way. So at the end of the day at 5 p.m, that would pop up, and then you can save it or send it to your supervisor. In this case, I'll just postpone it for an hour. So you can see the clock in tool. What you could do is you could clock in, and then at 1 o'clock, you could then click on break. And then in your work schedule, it would be 1 hour, 30 minutes. And then when you're back at 1:30, you could then click on continue, and then it would not interfere. Okay. So yeah, that's probably how I would do it.
Thank you. Next question. Can I get a notification when one of my products is out of stock? So I don't think you can as standard, can you?
You can in the new inventory model. Inventory. I don't know 100% how I do this, but you can get notified on a. So let me just double check. You can have stock levels. quantity arrived in. I'd have to double check with one of the team here who does a lot more work on this, but we can certainly send that information over. But yes, you can get alerts based on stock levels dropping to a certain reorder level. You can.
Okay. So I don't know if this is a follow-up question, but I've got a comment here saying clients can schedule meetings when I'm in lunch. So that's right, isn't it? So we're using that process whereby you clock out for lunch and then clock in. Somebody could have scheduled a meeting for that time when you want to be out of the office. I think it seems to be that functionality is probably not available unless you split your day, clock in, clock out at lunchtime, like we showed, clock in again when you've finished for the afternoon shift. Then it would, it would resolve that issue.
I'm not 100% sure. How that would work. It would need some thinking about, because I don't know. I don't think you'll be able to stop people booking it out unless you created a reoccurring event, an event in your calendar that said 12:30 till 1 or 12 till 1:30. You were booked out. So in here, you would create an event in here, and then if I click on the full editor, you could repeat that daily from 1 to, well, whatever time it was, 12 till 1:30. You could just put lunch. That would then block your calendar out in Bitrix throughout, and they wouldn't be able to book anything over. That's probably the only way of doing it.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to go to the on-premise, then we can create a process that handles that for you.
But you can do that straight away on cloud or anything. You can just book it out. You could just put lunch, and that would stop the people booking it out, because your calendar would just
sorry, yeah, absolutely, yeah, book it out, yeah, absolutely. Create the process that books it out for you every day, absolutely.
You don't need to create you don't need to create a process. You could just, all it is repeat daily.
Oh, right, yeah.
Every single day, and never stop. That would book that particular time slot out for your lunch every single day. That's how you would do it.
Yeah.
It should work if you just put, we tried the event, but it doesn't work. It should work depends on what calendar they're looking at. But it shouldn't be available for somebody to select. Make sure that you don't allow people to be able to book over it. Try to think where that setting is, but yeah, that should definitely work. Occupied.
Okay.
On here.
Okay, next question. Can you give me examples of what lists are for? So lists are very useful, aren't they, for lots of different purposes. Really, a list essentially is you can create a table of information. You can create your columns, a bit like you might do on a spreadsheet, essentially. But the benefit of using a list is that you can run processes, can't you, in the background? So a list might be a list of inventory, although we have an inventory module, or a list of expenses is quite good, isn't it? So if you want to sort of create a list of expenses that you associate with a project or something, essentially it's a table of information which has the option to create processes associated with it. We do have now have a SPA module as well, which tends to be a bit more advanced if you want to create sort of kind of new tables or new modules. But maybe we could can we open up a list and have a look at one?
I'm not 100% sure if where they. Let me just see. I know they're in here, so let me just double check. Let me just see out here. I don't know where they are in either one of our sites that we've got content in.
Yeah.
Let me just check. So you can have them as system lists across the whole of the company in the left-hand menu, or you can have them in work groups. So work groups is quite good if you're running a project, using a work group for a project. Then you might have an expenses list per project in here. So you can see that for mega project, we have a flight, we have a couple of hotels. And one of the good things with lists is that you have the processes that run behind them. So when you submit it, that can go for approval, pretty much like the leave process that we spoke about earlier. And then once it goes for approval, yes, no, and it would come back and set the status in the particular list. That's just one example. as Damien mentioned, these lists are quite good because they sit inside a project. Like, so this list is purposely for this particular project. And then you can export that data to Excel, and you'd have a list of all the expenses that had been approved. You also, as Damien mentioned, the SPA tool, the Smart Process Automation, lists, system lists have moved towards that, haven't they, really? Because they hold quite a lot of power. And the UI of them is pretty nice to be working with.
The UI is better, and they have those stages. So a bit like you've got in a lead, you can move an item through a stage, which actually for an expenses or something, it's better to see the stages, isn't it? So it'll be at submission, a pending approval, then approved and paid, and so you can see them move through the stages, and you can see them as Kanbans as well in those stages. So tends to be that an SPA is now better than using a list, unless you just want a basic table.
I mean, for things like expenses, I guess Bitrix would say the RPA would be better. So could you explain better what lists are for? So they're essentially for storing a list of data. It's a table within Bitrix. So all you do is you create a form using the customized fields. Somebody submits the data through that form, and it gets submitted into this table. You can use lists in project and work groups, and you can use lists on system-wide. So they could be whole company-wide lists. So we might store license information. We might store different kinds of information in a system list. And then you can have a mid project. So if you want to know more about lists,
where you can use them really is down to you. Basically, a list is just a table of information. So what you use it for is down to what you do inside your business. But really, a list is, as you see on the screen there, it's a column. It's a series of columns with information in them, and that's it. That's it, really, a table of information. So, next question, is it possible to export an Excel with business information or a specific pipeline? So depending on what you mean by business information, you can export to an Excel, a pipeline. So I guess we're talking about deals. So you can export deals, and you can filter a particular pipeline and just export the deals that sit within that pipeline. And it will export all the fields, won't it? I think, and every field you have, it will export it.
Yeah, it works.
Comments,
so the exports in Bitrix generally work in two ways. So whether you're in leads, deals, contacts, or companies, at the minute I'm in this particular pipeline, but you might want to export all deals. But you mentioned about pipelines, so I've come into live learning events here. Exports are handled in two ways. You can click on here and show the columns that you want to export. So the ones that are in blue will be exported. So I can click on here, click export deals to CSV. And if I click on run, that would only export the column headers and all of the data that's inside it. If you wanted to export every deal field on each one of these items, then we would click on export all deal fields, click on run, and then it would export all of the data inside each one of these deals. So I quite like the way that you can customize the column headers that you're going to export, the ones that are showing in the table. Click on here, click on export. It will only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It will only export 7 columns. So yeah, that's the easiest way. And that's the same in every module. You can go into the gear icon on this right-hand side and export, as long as you have permissions to export.
Yeah, and in case you're asking, because you don't want people to export information, you can set up permissions to prevent them from exporting information as well, which obviously you should be doing. You should be doing with your CRM data. You can restrict who can, as you can see there, who can read, who can add, who can update, make changes to it, who can delete, and then export and import as well. So yeah, there are some standard permissions that are enabled when you set it up, but you should go in there and customize them. But that looks like all the questions that we have. So thank you very much for joining us today and for your questions. If you are an existing user of Bitrix24, then please get in touch if you need help with any setup and any support. We can provide a support package where you get a dedicated point of contact who will learn about your business and be able to proactively advise you on how best to get the most out of your system. If you're just evaluating Bitrix24 at the moment, then also get in touch and we can provide you with a tailored demonstration. But thanks for your time. Thanks for joining today, and bye for now.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, everyone. And if you do have any questions throughout the week, just drop us an email and we can, on the next session, we can start with those questions as we go through that particular session. So thank you and bye for now.